God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. Welcome back to the Protege program, back from the long weekend that I enjoyed. It's these kinds of weekends that make me think about retiring, and I'm only 24 years old. What business do I have thinking about retirement? I still have to work another 16 years before the private industry will allow me to be successful. But hey, a guy can dream, can he? Over the weekend, I believe it was, California decided they're going to lower the penalty for knowingly exposing individuals to HIV, which, as you'll know, is the precursor to AIDS. In the past, it was a felony offense to expose people to HIV knowingly. And now it's been lowered to misdemeanor. So in the past, exposing people to HIV was on par with things like burglary, theft, murder, and rape. And California has reduced that penalty to, jaywalking, littering, loitering, those kinds of things. So I wanted to look at how significant this was. So I decided to look up what kind of treatment is required for HIV and that kind of thing. So this is from the Veterans Affairs website, where they talk about HIV and AIDS. And they tell you how it's treated. It's treated basically by taking drugs. And it's usually taken in a cocktail. You take three or more drugs, and apparently some of these things combine it into one pill, stuff and things. But what's really important is that there's no cure for the HIV infection. You have to take these pills for your entire life. So I thought, what does it cost to get an HIV pill? And according to Healthline, the cost of HIV treatment, which is medically reviewed by this fellow back in 2015. And now this is 2015, so I was kind of surprised at the low number of generic pills. But as you can see here, it's not cheap to treat HIV. You're paying $1,000 or so for 30 to 60 pills. Assuming you take one pill a day, that's enough for a month or two, so you're probably buying 12, 6, maybe 4 bottles a year if you're lucky. So that's expensive, as you can imagine. Now, you would figure that in a story like this one from CNN, they would do this kind of legwork for you. Go away, notification. They would tell you how many pills you have to take. They would tell you the fact that there's no cure for HIV, and they tell you a little bit there about the opposition, and they tell you about the support, but then that's it. They don't tell you about there's no moral judgment in this case. CNN, the mainstream media, they often rush to make moral judgments on things like this. But this is one of the rare cases where they appear to not do so. They just are providing you with facts, which is what I would prefer in a case like this. But they don't do some of the legwork like what I'm about to show you. So I've cataloged here, and I'll see if I hope I can get the top bar there to go away. It's probably going to come back. Okay, good. I cataloged all of the prices for the pills that we saw there earlier, and what I assumed is the range of prices on the pills. Nope, go away, header. And as you can see over here on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, that the average cost for a pill is about $1,300, $1,400 for a bottle of the medication. And there in about the center of the screen, column E, I cataloged all of the numbers of pills that come in each bottle. and then I calculated the yearly cost for each drug per year. As you can see, and I did use the number of pills. I calculated it to 365 pills a day, assuming 1 pill per day. Assuming you took 1 pill, this is going to cost you between $3,500 and $41,000 a year. So over a person's lifetime, assuming they get infected at age 25, we have California is probably a more sexually active state than others, so you might assume younger, but I just assume 25. You get infected at 25 and assume you live to 80. That's 55 years of taking drugs. And it's going to cost you, at minimum, almost $200,000. And if you can't get your hands on the cheaper pills, it's going to run you it's going to run you up closer to $1 million. And that's over your lifetime. Not to mention the fact that in 1 year it could cost you $3,500 to pay for this. If you're getting a bottle of 30 pills and it costs you $1,000, that's more than rent in, at least where I live anyway. Maybe in California it's not more than rent. What gets really scary, though, is when you say, okay, people aren't actually taking one of these pills, they're taking a cocktail. The minimum price on the cocktail is $11,000. That's taking the 3 cheapest pills that you can find at the cheapest prices and saying, all right, that's the price of my cocktail. If you can't if you can't get a hold of the cheaper ones, you might be spending closer to $88,000 a year on this drug cocktail. That'll buy you a house, at least where I live. That'll buy you a modest house. And then over your lifetime, if you get really unlucky, you're going to spend a few $1 million on your HIV medications over your lifetime. This is not a small thing. These are the kinds of sums of money that people sue people over, because you gave me this thing that cost me a couple of $1 million, and I want it out of your hide. This is not we just lowered the penalty, or Commiefornia rather, just lowered the penalty for transmitting HIV knowingly from, a prison sentence to a slap on the wrist ticket. We're going to start charging people a couple $100 for giving someone a multi-million-dollar infection. If that sounds screwed up in the head to you, you're not the only one. This sounds insane to me. Not to mention, the left talks about destigmatizing things all the time. We have to destigmatize this, that, and the other. What is the need for a stigma on something? You put a stigma on something if it is bad, if it is strange, if it is, in the fringe case. And I would certainly think that a multi-million-dollar disease would be a bad thing to have. So I would think it would be good to have a stigma on this thing. And not only is this thing bad, and not only does this thing cost you multi-millions of dollars, but people can then knowingly give this multi-million-dollar disease to people. This certainly is not as bad as anthrax, which, is a known chemical that you can pass to a person and kill them with it. But this is still something that costs people a lot of money. This is not a small thing to give to someone. Imagine the situation now. This is going to unfold in the coming years, if not sooner, where 2 consenting adults are going to engage in a sexual relationship, and one of the adults is going to have a HIV and is going to know it, and is, whether or not they're on their medication, it doesn't necessarily matter. They're going to have HIV. They're going to engage in a consensual sexual relationship with a person, and whether or not that person asks if they have HIV, which they probably will, if you're having sex on the ease, then you're probably in the habit of asking people if they have an STD, including HIV. So this is a responsible adult, as responsible as you can be, having sex willy-nilly. And you ask if that person has HIV, and they tell you no, because they don't care that they have HIV. They want to have the hanky-panky. And then the unwitting adult contracts HIV, and they go and get diagnosed, and then they sue this person for having HIV. They sue you for multi-millions of dollars in medical damages. What court is not going to say, all right, you knowingly transmitted HIV to this person, you owe them millions upon millions of dollars? It doesn't matter what Commiefornia says about whether or not you deserve the stigma of having HIV. You owe this person money because you gave them something that's going to cost them millions of dollars. This is the world that we live in. The world that we live in is one where the left says, it doesn't matter that I've just incurred upon you $1 million disease. I don't deserve anything more from the government than a slap on the wrist. This is the direction that we're heading. This is the slippery slope that conservatives get laughed at for saying we're going to walk down. Conservatives said, for today it's homosexuality, tomorrow it's pedophilia, and the world laughed. And now you have websites like salon.com trying to normalize pedophilia. When does it become okay to say, I told you so? I think that's going to do it for this subject. Thank you so much for watching. I know I missed a lot over my extended weekend, so I'm planning on putting out some additional videos over the coming days. Make sure you hit subscribe so that you don't miss any of those. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like, maybe even a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Thank you again so much for watching. Until next time, have a good evening and God bless.